Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
The digital asset investor. Today I found a couple of interesting things that I wanted to go over with you. A couple I've heard that have been covered. I think Alex Cobb was talking about one of them yesterday, and I saw it, and he did a better coverage of it than I would have. But I was just going to touch on it briefly and give some credit where I think credit's due on that, having to do with where I think that information originated, but I'm not 100% positive, but I'll let you guys decide. But the first article, this is from yesterday, I believe, but it says, the article says it's today, but I thought I'd pull it from yesterday. Well, 12 hours ago. Okay. Anyway, this article, I have mentioned this before about the Goldman Sachs, the new CEO that's taking the reins. But the thing that has never really been said, but I think that it is actually true, in my opinion, is that I believe that cryptocurrencies are what ultimately made them go ahead and retire Lloyd Blankfein, who was their CEO. I don't think that Lloyd Blankfein was a true believer. Maybe he's a little old school, but I don't believe he ever really bought into the Bitcoin thing. And I think that they know that there's so much money involved in this that now's a great time to put him out to pasture. And I think that's exactly what they did. In this article, the new CEO they mention in here that he is pro Bitcoin. Let's see what it says here. The banker is also positive on Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency. He has said in the past that he did not want to dismiss it, saying that doing so is too arrogant. So this guy is coming in for a reason, and of course Lloyd Blankfein is being gracious about it, but I believe that this was directly related to what they know is a multi-trillion-dollar market that's just about to begin, and I think that that's what this is really about. But I wanted to mention that because what's so huge about this is that Goldman Sachs, Wall Street follows Goldman Sachs. If Goldman Sachs is thinking this way to the extent of replacing a CEO and putting the other guy out to pasture to bring in the new era, that means everybody else is doing it. Every brokerage firm on Wall Street will be doing it next. I believe they already are doing it, but this is just an article that tells you basically what's fixing to happen. All right. The next thing I wanted to go over is this. This was in the news, but I haven't seen anybody really mention it yet. But this is huge. I mean, these are the CFA exam is now going to add cryptocurrencies to what everybody's having to learn to get into finance, and so this is a big deal. And now they're going to add cryptocurrencies and all of the different issues involving cryptocurrencies to the exam. And so when you start seeing this kind of thing, we've already started to see digital assets and cryptocurrencies and blockchain come into mainstream in different ways. But when you start, the way you truly know that it's being taken serious is when you start seeing the government, and I didn't even pull this article, but the government, they've been having 2 hearings the last couple of days on that. I think they called their hearing the future of money, if that tells you anything. But you're starting to see the accounting practices and all of this get involved. The government, this is here to stay. In fact, I think the article basically tells you this. It's not a passing fad anymore. And so those of us who have weathered the scary storm of all the ups and downs, our crypto is going to be banned. a lot of the appreciation that we've gained in our cryptocurrencies to this point, if you've been holding for more than a year or two, have been because you sat through all of that fear and you ignored it the way I ignored it. And there's a lot more ignoring to do. There's been a lot of ignoring that needed to be done in this year and continues to be. Emotionally putting all that on the shelf, and I'm going to talk about that further here in a few minutes. The other thing that has been popping up that I mentioned a minute ago about that Alex Cobb was talking about, and this is an article that talks about the Ripple. Basically, they're talking about, well, why did Ripple? What's the focus of Japan really about? Well, there's many things that the focus of Japan is about, but what they're talking about here is the forex market. The forex market is one of the biggest markets in the world, with a global market transferring upwards of $5 trillion every day. And what they're saying in this article is that, well, this captures it right here. XRP capturing 1% of the Japanese forex market would result in a $10 billion volume made in trades every day, which represents one small piece of one corridor of one use case. Comparing this against the circulating supply of the token, which is close to 20 billion, this will cause a significant price increase. And so that's just that's one piece of the puzzle that has been mentioned this week, in addition to all of the pieces that I've talked about and other people have talked about prior to this. But I wanted to give some credit here where I think this actually came from, because these articles started cropping up. I don't know where Alex Cobb got it from. I'm not saying that he stole anything or anything like that. That's not my point. I just wanted to give this guy credit because I think this guy's a genius. I've brought him up before. His name is J.C. Collins, and he wrote this article for the XRP blog earlier this week, before a lot of these articles started coming out, called The Geopolitics of XRP. And one of the first things he says in this article, it's right here: such a correlation becomes even more important when we add the possibility that SBI may be including foreign currency exchange XRP service to streamline and capture 50% or more of the Tokyo-based forex market. And that's what, I mean, this guy right here is on it. And I've told you before that I had emailed him and to ask him if he was the bearable guy, and I told you he had said he was not. But I wanted to mention to you, the reason I thought he was the bearable guy is because I went to his website, and I've told you guys to go there before, but if you go there, it's called The Philosophy of Metrics. And he has all sorts of articles, and many of them, for those of you that were fascinated by the bearable guy, you should go check his website out, because there's no question in the world the bearable guy reads his website, and that's where he got the inspiration for all of those drawings and different things that he was putting out a few months back. On to the next thing. My Brad Garlinghouse, I think I told you guys that from now on, when I do a stream, in one way or another, we are going to communicate to Brad Garlinghouse. I may be trying to call Ripple in my videos, or I may be emailing them, or I may be doing what I'm doing today. I went and got a bunch of the people at Ripple. I'm not going to. I told you yesterday, my goal, my mission in life is in the same vein that I've created a goal for baseball for my sons, which I'm also going to talk about in a minute. My goal, I'm going to interview Brad Garlinghouse in person, and I will fly to San Francisco to do it. And so today I've gone and I've gotten many of the people at Ripple, and so I'm going to keep on putting this out there until Brad or one of his people gets in contact with me. Before I send this, I want to tell you about a little bit of the feedback I've gotten. I wanted to thank a lot of you. I've had many people that have told me that you guys are that they don't see any reason why I couldn't get this interview. But I wanted to read to you an excerpt. When I was growing up, I was lucky enough to have my father always, he never taught me or my brothers and sisters in any kind of way that there were any kind of boundaries. And so when I look at the prospects of sitting down with Brad Garlinghouse, I don't really see it as that monumental of a task, because I don't see Brad Garlinghouse as anything other than a person just like you and I do. You've heard the saying, he puts his pants on just like I do in the morning, and that's how I view it. I would bet that behind closed doors, Brad Garlinghouse is probably as silly as most of us are when the doors are closed and there's not a camera on his face. And so I don't see this as some scary thing. But I read something in a book that I want to recommend to you guys, and I'm going to read you a couple of excerpts in this book today. This book is one of those life changers that I think you all should read. But I wanted to read something that I just happened to remember from this book about just this topic before I send this tweet. In this book it says, there are many men holding executive positions who assume an importance that causes some people to hold them in awe. With their elaborate office surroundings and their numerous secretaries and clerks, they put on a show that proves impressive to some people. Just bear in mind that these executives are mere human beings with the same fears, the same frailties, the same faults that are common to millions. At home, they are often docile little souls. When you do this and picture them as they really are, rather than as they appear or pretend to be, the mental hazard immediately disappears. The genuinely great man is usually easy to approach and seldom barricades himself from callers. And that's how I see Brad Garlinghouse. I see him as a genuinely great man. I don't see him as a man that's going to barricade himself from my tweet that's about to go out. I can already picture myself in the room with him interviewing him. So here goes the tweet. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to talk about is, and I just mentioned it to you, the book that I want you all to read is called The Magic of Believing, and I wanted to give you a little bit of insight into how this ties into XRP and Ripple. And first, I wanted to talk to you about the 2006 Rose Bowl, because to me, there's never been a sporting event that I've ever watched that represented the magic of believing the way that Vince Young did in that game. In that one game, I watched one person who believed more than anybody on the field win the entire game almost by himself, and he was against a complete field full of USC players who were probably more athletic and talented than he was. But for whatever reason, you could see it in his eyes. I wish I could zoom in closer on that photo, and maybe there are some, but you could see it in his eyes. You could, halfway through that game, or maybe it was in the late quarters, I don't remember exactly, but you could see the look on his face, and he was one of those people that you knew instantly, you knew he was going to win the game. And I say this, I'm fixing to read you an excerpt, but I say that as an individual challenge to you. If you can ever capture that belief, the belief in yourself, the belief that what you're doing is right, it's a life changer. But what I want to read to you now, it applies to what you've been going through with the markets in the last few months, and why it is irrelevant if you know what you're invested in and you understand the big picture. This is from the same book, The Magic of Believing. It's going to take me a few minutes, but I'm going to read it to you anyway because it's so true. But it's so true for your life and everything that you're involved in. Here we go. You see the same force actively at work in the fluctuations of the stock market. Unfavorable news immediately depresses prices while favorable news raises them. Intrinsic values of stocks are not changed, but there is an immediate change in the thinking of the market operators, which is reflected at once in the minds of the holders. I think it's interesting that the word holders is in there. Okay, but I'm reading again now. It is not what will actually happen, but what security holders believe will happen that causes them to buy or sell. In the depression years, and there may be years like them in the future, we saw this same suggestive force working overtime. Day after day, we heard the expressions, times are hard, business is poor, the banks are failing, prosperity hasn't a chance, and wild stories about business failures on every hand until they became the national chant, and millions believed that prosperous days would never return. Hundreds, yes, thousands of strong-willed men go down under the constant hammering, the continuous tapping of the same fear, vibratory thoughts. Money, always sensitive, runs to cover when fear suggestions begin to circulate, and business failures and unemployment follow quickly. We hear thousands of stories of bank failures, huge concerns going to the wall, etc., and people believe them readily and act accordingly. There will never be another business depression if people generally realize that it is with their own fear thoughts that they literally create hard times. They think hard times, and hard times follow. So it is with wars. When people of the world stop thinking depressions and wars, they will become non-existent. For nothing comes into our economic scheme unless we first create it with our emotional thinking. Dr. Walter Dill Scott, eminent psychologist and long president of Northwestern University, told the whole story when he said, "Success or failure in business is caused more by mental attitudes even than mental capacities. Human beings are human beings the world over, all subject to the same emotions, the same influences, and the same vibrations. And what is a big business, a village, a city, a nation, but merely a collection of individual humans controlling and operating it with their thinking and believing. As individuals think and believe, so they are. As a whole city of them thinks, so it is. And so as a nation of them thinks, so it is. This is the inescapable conclusion. Every person is a creation of himself, the image of his own thinking and believing." And so I believe that we've all been going through a lot of that market psychology and the way that the last few months has been. And you kind of saw it yesterday, the very second that the market started doing well, the emotion of immediately piled on, and CNBC and everybody's, oh, this is so great, and Bitcoin's the real thing, and this could be a bull market. But I encourage you to always take a step back and look at the big picture, because the emotions don't mean anything. I did a tweet last night. We finished the day, which was a good day, with a $290 billion market cap. This is going to $40 trillion plus dollars. $290 billion is nothing. But the emotions of the day were good yesterday. They may be bad today, but it's irrelevant, because we know what we're invested in, and we know that digital assets are here to stay, and that XRP is the greatest digital asset ever created and has the greatest group around it and the greatest situation overall. Okay, I'm going on to the next thing. Yesterday when I brought up my sons and how, and I was not exaggerating, from the time my now 12-year-old was 7 years old, I made up my mind that I was going to throw 2 buckets of baseballs. Well, actually, throw's the wrong word. I do 1 bucket off of the tee. For those of you that aren't familiar, all the way through the major leagues, baseball players hit off of the tee to keep their swing level. And so the tee is a huge part of training. And so since my son was 7, He has hit one bucket of baseballs off of a tee, and I've thrown him one bucket off of a tee. And we've done this 3 days a week, year round. And we will continue to do it all the way till he leaves me and goes off to college. I started my now 6-year-old when he was 5 doing the exact same thing, and that's just what we do. Okay? But I had a lot of people I think really liked that story, but more importantly, I had some of them that said, okay, well, you mentioned that, but what is your son's goals with baseball? Well, I guess most people would assume that our goal is the major leagues. Well, there's one problem with that. I plan on being an XRP millionaire by the time my sons go off to college. So unless one of these major league teams are going to put down a major amount of millions of dollars, I would rather my sons go get a Division I NCAA education. And so I'm going to actually show you guys the plan, the goal, that is. My goal, I just lost my, I'm going to have to go back here. We're going only Division I. Okay, I hope this doesn't take too long, but here we go. Okay, we're going Division I. Okay, and then let's see if I can close this. All right, and then we're going to go. I hope this doesn't take forever. Okay, conference. Now, I hope this doesn't make some of you mad out there, but I'm interested in my sons going to one of two, the ACC or the SEC. I went to school at an SEC school, and so I'm kind of partial. Where's the Southeastern Conference? Okay, here we go. Okay, but the ACC, my father went to Georgia Tech, which is an ACC school, so we're kind of partial to these. If I can get this thing to close, okay. Let me see if I can get this to zoom in now. Okay, so I live in Georgia, and my parents told me a long time ago that they wanted me to go to school within 4 or 5 hours, because if I went further away, I would end up marrying someone that lived way away, and they would never see me or the grandkids. And so I kind of have the same rule for my kids. I want my kids to be within 4 or 5 hours of me, so that we'll be able to eventually see the grandkids, and we'll get to see my kids. So what I'm looking at, and some of these, since I'll go ahead and tell you, I went to Auburn University, okay? I went to Auburn University, so I'm partial to Auburn University, but my wife went to Georgia, and so, which is right here. So both of those are on the table. A lot of these schools do pain me to even bring them up, since I went to Auburn. But I'm going to bring them up anyway, because I am open-minded to them if either one of my sons had a great opportunity to go to one of these schools. Florida is close enough, so they're in the game. Florida State is in the game. They're close enough. Auburn's in the game, of course. This one is so painful for me to say, but I'm going to say that today that University of Alabama is in the game. These are all eligible for their legitimate goals. My father-in-law played football at Mississippi State, so Mississippi State is in the game. This is another painful one right here. If my father-in-law had not played at Mississippi State, I would not even bring this one up. I mean, if I said that wrong. If my father-in-law had not played at Mississippi State, University of Mississippi would be in the game, okay? But I think since he played at Mississippi State, I'm going to have to take Ole Miss off the table. I think they may hate each other more than Auburn and Alabama do. So anyway, that's off the table. I don't take Alabama off the table. Maybe I'm not quite as passionate about it, but because I didn't play football at Auburn. But anyway, okay, Georgia Institute of Technology. That's where my father went. Great school. They're on the board. That would be a great education. These are getting a little too far away. I did grow up a good part of my life was in Cleveland, Tennessee, and so I would have gone to University of Tennessee. But we're starting to get a little far away from home now. This is over 6 hours, I believe. Vanderbilt is such a great school. If they came calling, then we would have to talk to them. Okay, the next two that I am keeping an open mind on are probably the last two. I've already mentioned University of Georgia, definitely. University of South Carolina I'm open to, and Clemson I'm open to. Now there are three long shots that I'm going to remain open to no matter what. One of them I just mentioned, even though they're farther away, but they're such great schools that I'm open to them. They're close enough being such great schools. Okay, I'm zooming in. One is Duke University, and the other is the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Those two schools, or Vanderbilt, those are the three faraway schools that we're just we're going to be open-minded to. Okay, I'm moving on. I wanted to give a shout out to, I haven't done a shout out to the YouTubers in a while, and I've started watching a few more. These are the ones you must watch. You must watch Jungle Inc. You must watch Alex Cobb, DM Logic. You must watch Crypto Nomad. You must watch, I just started watching Crypto SB. She's out of Japan, and I think that's great to have a good Japanese source who can read all the Japanese writing and everything. That's pretty cool. You must watch CKJ Crypto News. He does a lot of research. I just started watching Kung Fu Nerd. Esoteric Trading Solutions I've talked about before is great. This, I'm not sure who this is, but it's XRP.video. They do some great videos. I love Bank XRP. He puts up all of the Bank XRP puts up a lot of videos, like when people from Ripple are interviewed and different things. You know what I just said? I said that wrong. I called Crypto SB. I meant Crypto Airy. Crypto Airy is the one in Japan. Crypto SB is the guy that helped me design my logo. Sorry about that. And I just started listening to, I think this guy's British. He calls himself Professor P. And he seems like a real smart guy, and I enjoy watching him as well. That's just a few that I came up with. Now I need to give a shout out to a really great guy. Mike Jansen, I've mentioned before. He was one of the first people that started following me when I started my channel. Mike, and he emails me all the time, and I've mentioned that he is the announcer for the Indianapolis Colts. And I actually asked him the other day, because my fantasy football draft is going to be coming up soon. But I mentioned him the other day because he's always emailing me and giving me ideas and everything, and he loves this XRP space. But anyway, so he had offered to me early on that he would make me an intro, like Jungle Inc.'s got an intro that I think everybody's familiar with, and I at the time, and still I'm kind of technologically not very savvy. In fact, I've had to download in recent days. I had to download. I'm still playing with the software, and it's going to, after I finish this video, it's going to take me a little while to figure out how to add the intro that Mike has created for me to the beginning of my video. But I'm going to do that today, and so I wanted to let you all know that Mike is the one that created the intro, and Mike has also offered to go and do some of the videos, and he's a producer, and so he's offered to go and do some of the video and production when I get my, and I say when I get my Brad Garlinghouse interview, not if. And he's offered to fly to San Francisco and meet up and handle that too. So I wanted to show you, you can follow Mike on Twitter at COLTSSTADIUMPA, okay, on Twitter, and go to his website too. It's mgjansen.com. And follow him. He puts out some really good information on Twitter, and he's an important part of the XRP community. Well, I know I've been long-winded, but thank you guys for listening. I hope that some of the things I've told you will help you all and hopefully change your lives. Thank you for listening. I am the digital asset investor. I am not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. You guys, I was just notified this morning. I've been telling you that you could get a 20% discount at the crypto store in the below all of my videos in the link section. I was emailed by the store and they said that it's now you're going to be able to get free worldwide shipping, but it's only a 10% discount from now on. Also, I thank you for those of you that have helped out the channel by getting the Ledger Nano S. Thank you. I appreciate it. I get a lot of you that say that. I have not heard one. I've heard a few people say that they had a little bit of a hard time setting it up, but I have not had one person say anything bad about having their Ledger once they had it, and I can't say anything bad about it. And in fact, I'm about to buy some for my father. But the Ledger Nano S, I've got a link that takes you directly to their company in the description of every one of my videos. It's the only safe way to go get one, and it's the safest way to hold your digital assets. Do not keep your digital assets on an exchange. Well, thank everybody for listening, and I am out of here. Thank you.